Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. Let me confirm that we are broadcasting live in the desired locations. All right, it appears we are. That's great.
Hello, everybody.
Hit like, hit subscribe. Tell me your name in the comments, where you're watching from. Good morning, David. Once we get people in the chat room, we'll begin the conversations and put the overlay on that side of the screen. Let me share this show to the rest of my groups. Any stories you want me to talk about today? Put it in the chat. Let's see, join our live show right now. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let's go. All right. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere in this wonderful continent we call North America. My name's Brian Engelman. Today is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. And this is, I do these shows and I have a couple of different names for shows. Let me switch it up here. We'll be the Agree to Disagree show today. Normally it's the TNAM AM show, but today is really a referendum on Fauci. And for today's program, it makes sense to me that we do agree to disagree. And we would ask you, let me share you this screen on our feed here for the New American Media. Make sure you're following us. Let me full screen this. Do you agree or disagree that we should arrest and detain Fauci on Alcatraz immediately? My idea would be some sort of a plexiglass cage. They continue to run tours through your cage, and they renovate it and turn it into the world's largest, or at least America's largest, supermax for the traitors who have betrayed humanity, crimes against humanity, the torture of the Beagles. Have you followed this man? Do you know what he is? Should he be arrested and detained on Fauci Island? Maybe rename it Fauci Island as a reminder not to do what they did. So we're going to discuss that on today's program in an agree to disagree manner. So that is our question of the day. Do you agree or disagree that we should arrest and detain Fauci on Alcatraz immediately? It's a very interesting idea. The judges, what is the plan for Alcatraz? It's going to be the traitor island. I mean, it feels like it's shaping up to be. And that's why part of me could understand why President Trump would be asking for a budget that was perhaps larger than you would have liked. All of that effort with Doge to save money, to reduce theft, to reduce laundering, to reduce anti-American, anti-conservative, anti-libertarian, anti-capitalist, anti-American agendas. Did I say American twice? A lot of great work was done to remove the funding from the rent-a-mobs, from the AstroTurf Democrat movement. We've watched a lot occur. We've watched large successes from this administration. So on one hand, of course, I don't want a large amount of spending, but on the other, okay, so we're going to revamp Alcatraz as a national monument to why you don't F around, because you're going to find out. You're going to Fauci out. Call it Fauci Island. Can we rename it? The left is so keen on renaming things. I would be fine renaming this Fauci Island because of what he did to humanity. This guy's crimes are so deep. You could rename it Fauci Island as a testament to humanity. No, we can never forgive what Fauci did. We can never forget. So yeah, I'm gonna say, let's put some chats up on the screen. Good morning, David. He says, yes, put Dr. Evil Fauci on Alcatraz. Ooh, I wonder if there could be like some sort of, you know how we have a Washington, excuse me, what is it? What is it called? Mount. Why am I having a moment here? Where they're etched into the stone? Good grief. Rushmore. There we go. Yikes. Here, I need to have some coffee. Good morning, everybody. Cheers. Sorry, I got into conversation mode before I got through show introduction mode, because this is the number one issue that I have been focused on for half a decade now. And for his crimes against me and my family. Yeah, I'm reading the tea leaves and wondering if there's a possibility we could make Fauci the very first resident of Alcatraz and bring this monster to justice for what he did. So we will be discussing that. Deb from SAC. Good morning, Deb. You say draw and yes. I believe if you know, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I believe what you're saying is once Anthony Fauci is found guilty by a jury of his peers, you would like to see him meet the same fate that used to happen if found guilty of heinous crimes back in yesteryear. Just listening in. Well, thanks for being here. Okay, good to see you. Everybody else, hit like, hit subscribe, however you are watching. And we're going to unpack the news of the day. Let me go ahead and change the aspect ratio and go to this tab. Let me tell you this real quick before we jump into the program. Like I said, hit like, hit subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the thumbs up or the heart button. Leave your comments, drop your name or your initials, and let us know where you're watching the show from today. We love the comments as a participation in the program. Link up with us in the other spots. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Kick, DLive, and YouTube. Just search The New American Media. We're on Telegram and Signal at TNAM and TNAM Chat, TNAM and TNAM Chat. We're on X at American_media_. And subscribe to our podcast, The Agree to Disagree Show, and The Unhappy Hour Sports Show on Spotify and Apple. And as always, I'll put at the bottom of the screen, if anyone wants to throw something into the tip jar, we're on Patreon. Thank you to our monthly subscribers who make monthly donations to help fund independent journalism and independent programming for you. But we are The New American Media on Patreon. Venmo at Brian Engelman, Cash App Brian Engelman, PayPal at Fuzz Installment. All right, back to our links at the bottom here, and let's get into the news. Rapid Response 47 says the NIH is closing experimentation labs who have been accused of brutally killing thousands of beagles for 40 plus years. People, this is the Fauci effect. This is what St. Anthony Fauci has been up to. Here, let's try to refresh. Not sure why it's not loading. There we go. It's that time of year for gardening. No, I'm going to get to Fauci. I've talked about it a lot. If you've been watching for a while, you know that I buried my mother a couple weeks before the world was shut down from COVID, as she was suffering from a kind of a strange respiratory situation that sure sounds like COVID. And then my brother at the end of COVID, I had to bury him. So unleashing this demon upon humanity has been my life's goal, to track down those responsible and try to make sure that it never happens again. And the way to do that, well, how do you do that? You do it. I'll get to all that stuff in a second, but I just want to go through the stories that you might have found on the Instagram page for the New American Media. It is that time of year. You should be thinking about growing something. Even if you only have a windowsill, grow some greens. If you have a little backyard, get a couple of pots or get an above ground something, or just do a couple things. Plant some shrubs or some bushes. There are trees that give you berries or fruits. But the summer is quickly approaching, spring, and our well-being is sort of important, and I want to talk about it for a second.
At the end of that Mississippi River, the last 90 miles of the Mississippi River that's collected all of the roundabout of our whole bread belt of our country, is the highest rates of cancer in the entire developed world. It's called the Cancer Alley. And we have a lot of people that are suffering their fourth and fifth cancers that live in that territory. And so we're documenting all of this. But one of the coolest teams that we're partnering up with is this group of 4 very experienced older farmers.
By the way, they're discussing environmental impact of chemicals being thrown throughout our ecosystem. If you want countervailing views on health and elections, go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control for countervailing views. I say this to you under duress. They don't really like you to hear any sort of conversation about your health and about the things that may be damaging your health. For some reason, follow the money. So we have to speak in code like we're 7 years old. That's the world that we live in. No, but we're a free and open society, aren't we? Oh, it's a private platform. Sure it is. Anyway,
we're now traveling.
It's just about chemical runoff. Would you rather have chemical runoff, or would you rather not? I mean, I regardless of one particular brand, I don't think it makes any sense that anyone would choose extra runoff if they didn't have to. I don't think that's an out there claim.
The country teaching people how to convert 30,000, 100,000 acre farms back to an organic and permaculture type thing. This is the revolution, I think, because it's one thing for us to send out some millennials and grow a 10 acre or 20 acre permaculture garden and fuel. Another thing to teach large scale farmers to convert back to thousands of years of food tradition to grow on the grand scale enough healthy food. That's happening right now. This is not fiction. And so, we hope to be at least some of the documentaries coming out to document that this is stupid easy. We've been doing it for 10,000 years. We just need to keep doing it, which is growing healthy food, respecting the soil, growing healthy soil, and seeing human health come spring right out of that soil that we were born into. By the way, at the end of
hey, how good does that sound? We said, make America grow again. We have a group on Facebook called TNAM Grow Something. If you're not thinking about your garden, I encourage you to do something about your garden this year. Get some stuff going, get some seeds planted, buy some starts. Like I said, some shrubs, some bushes, some trees. It's up to us to do this stuff. And whether it's the water that you're consuming, do you have some way to gather water from the sky? Some way to then filter it more, but do you at least a way to catch it and then reuse it? What if your supply wasn't so good anymore? There's a number of things to think about as we put our gardens and our yards together. All the backup plans and self-sufficiency, dreams, goals, and ideals. It's that time of year, If you could front load a little bit of extra time, a couple of extra hours this week, I guarantee you're going to get a bounty 1,000-fold down the road with minimal upkeep. A little bit of water if it goes dry for a while, or if something's whatever, move it out of the sun, or tweak a couple things, maybe fertilize it once or twice. But just a little bit of love and care can get you some really nice options. And that's it's a manner of life that America has veered away from, sadly. I grew up always having gardens. Go to your grandparents, and whether it was rose bushes or tomatoes or blackberries, raspberries, and everything else you could imagine, that's what you do. And if you have extra, then you give it to your neighbors, and your neighbors have too many zucchini, and you guys you're able to spread a whole bunch of good food right amongst each other. It's really cool. And it's just right there. It's minimal effort. It's better quality. It's just a better system. And we've gotten away from some of the basic components of what makes humanity. Creature comforts, and it's just a good reminder, because I've been working on several projects over several weeks. And you're never caught up. You're never caught up. But the more you stay on top of the important things, the less urgent the follow-up becomes. So just a reminder, get your garden going. If you haven't started yet, you still have time. That was your universe reminding you. All right, let me continue through the I'm Not Having Fun Anymore account. I couldn't remember exactly which one it was that I shared. It's always a smorgasbord. Of course, I do not agree or disagree with all memes. I just share them and we talk about them. Classical Liberty says they voted you into 40% taxes, but you will have to shoot your way out of it. That's what they say about communism. Within my lifetime, normies will realize that the people they dismiss as racist. Oh, well, we're getting into the anti-Semite conversation. They worry and care more for them and their families than the governments and societies at large. This was the one that I shared. How do I block absolutely everything about that playground incident? I like that take. Just, anyone else? That's what he said. Anybody else? I don't know. All right. So let's take a look at the media. Of course, there's a lawsuit going through the works right now. President Trump has sued, what is it? I believe CBS, right? In 60 Minutes? Or one of them. And let's remember when the media talked about President Trump and his, fitness to serve.
Some people ask whether you are fit for the job.
Watch me. Of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah.
I talk to President Biden regularly. His mental acuity is great.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
It's fine.
Los Angeles and what am I doing here?
I never saw that person, not a single time.
Like you're watching all of this gaslighting. I never saw that person, not even a single time. We all saw it. And we were just getting snapshots on your best days. Come on. Like they refuse to tell us, like, you guys not only did what you did in 2020, that is what you put up as the puppet so that you could run the country behind his shadow. And so it brings into question how much of any of that was remotely legitimate. And what are the ramifications of that? Jen Psaki. Oh, is she the worst?
And I was in the Oval Office every day. That was on that debate stage.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
The way that the
hold on, hold on. That had to be edited together, didn't it? That couldn't have been real.
president's demeanor in that report
Well, maybe it was. I do vaguely remember that.
was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts.
For two reasons. One,
President Biden had mental acuity. He had a sharpness to him.
I said what I believed to be
This one. I said what I believed to be true at the time. Good interview here.
true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
make a very good point.
Did you see her chuckle and buckle and silently laugh? That was an instinct. She couldn't hold that back. It was probably the ego involved. No. I'm not saying I'm like, no, good Lord, no. No, come on. You saw it too. No, I'm not like that. Just let me tell my story, kid.
Point. Here's the deal. The idea that
This isn't funny. I can't. This has been such a terrible half year. Such a terrible half year. I know I'm not the only one that's, in many ways, had to sit through COVID-19 and then Biden. And yes, it is Biden that I actually blame alongside Fauci for my brother's departure. They would not provide him hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin. They refused. They said there's a one-size-fits-all approach, and we're going to give put some decisions out there that are pretty much baked into our criteria, and there's a pricing model for if we prescribe certain things, we get a certain amount from the insurance companies or however that system works, and they gave a one-size-fits-all approach that did not work. Biden was the one that shut down monoclonal antibodies. They were too successful in Florida, so then they said, oh, well, it's not really effective against the new strain, so no, we're going to pull all the funding from that. We don't want to encourage that, because they were encouraging selling the product. But that wasn't the product. That was a different product. And they wouldn't have emergency use authorization blanket protections if there were also therapeutics on the market, like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, monoclonal antibodies, vitamin C drips, the Merrick protocol, the things that we were all screaming at the doctors when they said there's nothing we can do, but they definitely had him prescribed on something that nurses used to enjoy calling run death is near. Yeah. It was the Biden administration that forced you to get that jab, or else you'd lose your job. You couldn't travel. They forced these things into your nose and did God knows what with the DNA from that. We were all violated, and my family's half the size that it was. And I blame Joe Biden. During my brother's service, I believe my father said something along the lines of, if Donald Trump were president, I truly believe my son would still be with us today. We wouldn't have had the restrictions in place in the medical field. And that's a little bit of hearsay or conjecture, but I remember President Trump passing the right to try. The right to try. It's like, it's your care. You have the right to try the things that you want to try. It's your life, and you have the right to try. And that was such a radical difference from what we got out of Joe Biden. So I am laughing at this because it's obvious, and it's foolish. It's clowny, But this man deserves to be on Alcatraz.
I won't lie to you as it relates to the direct engagement I had with Joe Biden that ever suggested a cognitive decline to the degree that we saw at that debate night.
So that's their joke. That's their new talking point. Well, nothing to that degree. No, by the time we saw it, when we had when it was on display at the debate, that's the first time we really saw what we all saw. And you're going, we were yelling this for years. Like, you were watching the same thing we were watching. You kept pretending you weren't seeing it. That's their new story. So when we talk about treason, we talk about the worst of the worst criminals and judges. I mean, same, one and the same. If you haven't been paying attention, there's a lot of places that have an incredibly corrupt criminal justice system. Joe Biden, they ran cover and called Trump unfit to serve over and over. Guilty of projection.
Solid meeting with
we all saw this.
When did you guys know?
And it's okay. Look, I was searching earlier for the words Mount Rushmore, the location Mount Rushmore, the person, place, or thing Mount Rushmore, the noun Mount Rushmore. Maybe we've never been juggling as much random data as we are right now. Maybe it's easier to forget names and stuff, but it's a general cognitive decline that's obvious. It was obvious when they hid Joe Biden during the 2020 election. They hid him. They pretended it was because of COVID. Oh, COVID's so important, but we're going to open the borders to 30 million unvaccinated, untested, unbackground checked, military-aged men. There's a great idea. That was their plan. So these are funny, but Joe Biden was at the center of something really dark in this country.
Oh, that the president was unfit to be on
The president is not unfit.
So why is
Remember the last guy when he was president, he said we have retired, he had every week.
Joe Biden.
Wow.
Has vision, he has knowledge.
The war. What's that?
Are questioning whether Donald Trump is actually fit at this point to be able to carry out the duties of the United States of America.
Some people.
Yeah. Just never forget who these media are. Never forget. Here's a reminder from Charlie Kirk that the current Democrat platform, here it is, the current Democrat platform, mass migration into the United States, dirty cities, men and women's sports, baby killing, high taxes, inflationary spending, anti-police, anti-male, anti-woman, anti-white, anti-American, pro-foreigner, pro-gangbanger, pro-Hamas. The current Democrat platform. Dems polling in the teens yet? How do you do anything but say hard pass? I'm good. Don't need any of that.
Time to help.
Hey, did you hear what's going on in Salem, Oregon? Now, I don't have the date on this. This could be 10 years old for all I know. It appears to be current. But let's check out this story. Salem, Oregon, Fox 12.
Refugees who are resettling in the area. Today, a celebration was held at Blossom Gardens. The new community offers 90 units of affordable housing with some units set aside for refugees. The complex was originally supposed to include market rate units, but then was acquired by a partnership, including Salem for Refugees and affordable housing developers. We spoke with someone who's helping refugees resettle, who said the ones moving into this complex are very excited.
I think this is going to be a great place for our community to interact and to engage with other even communities from different parts of the world. It's going to be a great place because it's going to have like all different people from all different languages.
This is a transportation hub. They've created a city as a staging ground for the transportation of humans.
And like countries. It's going to be kind of a small global interaction in the same apartment complex, and we're excited to be part of that.
This summer,
affordable housing for refugees, not for U.S. veterans, not for low-income U.S. citizens, but for illegal aliens.
there will be a renovated community room, an outdoor play area, and a sport court. The complex is open to anyone who meets the income guidelines.
Priorities, people. You know, we have a responsibility to our family. First and foremost, and our family is our country and our community. Ron Paul says that President Trump casually mentioned that the U.S. will have its first $1 trillion military budget. This doesn't in any sense sound like a government looking to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. We have been bankrupted economically and morally by endless wars that have provided our people with no benefits, only costs. We'll never know what the American standard of living could have been had we not squandered away so many trillions on wars. I mean, there's a fair comment here. You really want to go into World War III unprepared? Saddle up. May we live in interesting times. left a comment there. You know, this is where I mentioned earlier that I think we need to give President Trump some budget to build with. We need the border built. We need the ports secured. Like there's a lot of things that need to happen. And I really appreciate the full governmental audit that was done by Elon and President Trump. I'm super appreciative of that. And we all should be. There's a lot of money that's been going to people to hate you, you know, just for existing and wanting normalcy in your life and trying to be a good person, like having a campaign waged against you with your own stolen funds, be it USAID or any number of other non-governmental organizations that reroute and 10% here, 10% there, everybody gets a cut. You know, there's a lot to be grateful for. And I said about the budget, I wish it wasn't this big. However, I could understand wanting to come in and get everything in order, get the allocation of funds squared away so that big ideas could turn into big projects. You know, looking at the amount of federal land that we have, why couldn't there be a public-private partnership to create some new cities? Elon just built a new city in Texas. Reimagine, sell some of that back, and boom, 36 trillion could be gone in a heartbeat. You know, the United States government owns a lot of land. And there's a lot of places where all you need is just a road with some barren, uninhabitable land. You know, maybe getting water and electricity there might have its own challenges, but there's a lot of space that's open and not doing much, and there's a lot of big ideas. So, you know, there are several theaters of war at the moment. And I think the person in charge of leading the military should have at his disposal some of the best and most effective tools for these times. So, yeah. I agree with Dr. Paul. We filmed him at the Libertarian Convention last year. But on the other hand, I'm going to go ahead and just I can understand it, but I would really like to see a massive reduction next year. I'd really like to see this front loaded and not a continuance. We continue spending more than we're bringing in. It's just an upside down system at the moment. So I appreciate Dr. Paul. I'm just trying to understand the other side and figure it out. Here you go. Here is RFK Jr. Trump and RFK just banning gain-of-function research, ending bioweapons arms race. Let's take a listen. This is from American Values PAC.
U.S. federal officials who violated it cannot be prosecuted. And that relaunched a bioweapons arms race, and that was driven by gain-of-function research. In 2014, 3 of those bugs escaped from U.S. labs, and President Obama declared a moratorium on future use, and instead a lot of that research was moved offshore to the Wuhan lab. And it launched bioweapons arms race all around the country, all around the world, so that China is engaged in it, developing all kinds of weapons using AI and CRISPR technologies that are really devastating.
Do you understand where we're at? President Trump renegotiating these trade deals, it's about much more than just a trade situation. If Fauci's responsible for unleashing this bioweapon demon on the world through his gain-of-function research that was offshored because it became illegal to do in America, so he took American dollars and hid it overseas and then unleashed it, perhaps intentionally, from Wuhan, China, to infect the entire planet, And whether it was part of the reason or whether it was coincidental, I don't know. Was it a master plan, or was it just never miss the opportunity to take advantage of a crisis? Who said that? 3, 2, 1. Rahm Emanuel, former Obama chief of staff, I believe, right? Am I remembering that right? Went into Chicago. Never miss the opportunity to take advantage of a crisis. That's why you saw so much division during Obama. So much of it. Every chance they could find to locate a divisive story, they would amplify and exaggerate and warp and weaponize his opposition into silence and compliance. It was weaponized. Life was weaponized. But there's a global bioweapons race now. You understand what that means? That is deeply concerning.
Russia is deeply engaged in it, Iran and many other countries.
Iran and China and many other countries. By the way, there's Ukrainian biolabs. The biolabs are a part of the Ukraine war story. Was part of the reason that Russia went into Ukraine because of the bioweapons labs that they wouldn't shut down right over by their border. I've heard that claim. I don't know if that's true or not.
It's a kind of weapon that always has blowback. There's always bad news. And the justification for this kind of weaponry was, and these kind of research, was always that we have to do this, develop vaccines to counter a future pandemic. In all of the history of gain-of-function research, we can't point to a single good thing that's come from it. And today I commend President Trump for his courage and his vision in ending U.S. bioweapons research. And U.S. federal officials...
There you go. We've ended it. It's time for the indictments now. It is time for the indictments. Thank you for stopping this. But I'm trying to understand. I'm missing a component. Help me understand if you can type it in the comments. I believe what he said is that Obama outlawed this, so they took it over to Wuhan. So now they're banning gain-of-function research, but we already did that. What am I missing on this story? Maybe I misunderstood what he said. Should I listen one more time? No. I'm just happy that they did it.
The news.
Okay, this is an NBC report now about 2 New York Police Department officers. Well, let's take a listen here.
Our I-Team has obtained new video after NYPD officers were attacked in Times Square by suspected gang members. Those suspects allegedly linked to the notorious Tren Aragua gang. News 4 Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Dienst live in the newsroom with what he's learning. Jonathan?
David, police say more than 10 suspected gang members, many of them minors, attacked 2 NYPD officers in uniform. The melee broke out in Times Square as the officers tried to stop an apparent assault or robbery attempt. Soon, a group of teens are seen on video attacking the officers. The 2 officers jump in to try to stop a couple of teen suspects from carrying out an apparent assault. But soon a gang jumps in to try to stop the officers from making the arrests. Video shows the officers being shoved, objects being thrown at them, and then the group flees. Several of the teen suspects in custody, one as young as 12, one flashing gang symbols. The suspects believed to be associated with the notorious TDA gang.
So are these Americans or what's going on? Do we have sleeper cells pre-positioned across our country? What are we going to do about it? Where are we at?
Former NYPD Chief of Department Terry Monahan on what police are saying about the suspects.
part of a known gang called Diablo 42 or the Devils of 42nd Street, which is a younger offshoot of the Tren de Agua gang from Venezuela.
One additional suspect arrested this afternoon. He gave his address as the Roosevelt Hotel. Friday's incident in Times Square happened amid the much-hyped boxing matches held there, including the bout between Ryan Garcia and Raleigh Romero. And this attack on NYPD officers comes after the January 2024 incident, where video showed numerous migrants battling with police along West 42nd Street. Mayor Adams visited
These are American cities now.
The officers who suffered minor injuries Friday. Let's be clear, we will not tolerate anyone attacking the symbol of public safety in our city. NBC New York is not identifying many of the suspects as they are minors. Police say several are connected to numerous past crimes and robbery patterns, including last summer's robbery spree around Central Park South. Those who were caught...
I mean, this is a roving gang of pit bulls. This is a group of monsters prowling through your neighborhood. This is, I think what I was missing here, though, like they said TDA, they said these are affiliated with, did they say they were American citizens or that these are illegal aliens? Did they say? Do they need to say?
Friday night, taken to the Midtown South precinct. Federal immigration officers happened to be nearby due to their own separate stakeout of a known criminal. Under New York's sanctuary city policies, the NYPD does not tell immigration of criminal arrests like those from Times Square.
They don't speak with immigration? You've got to be kidding me. Why?
If immigration to grab them afterwards based on those arrests, well, that's immigration. That's a federal, what the feds do, separate and distinct from what the NYPD would do right now. So no notifications are made.
Wow. The NYPD says at least 3 suspects charged so far. The investigation ongoing with additional arrests expected soon. The mayor and top NYPD officials expected to explain more at a planned briefing tomorrow.
The News 4 I-Team has obtained new video.
So, look, when you're out and about, be aware. Be aware in your own community. Be aware wherever you happen to be. A human being says we have people in suits that do more damage to America than any little diaper gang it can. That is also a good point. But these stories are something that could be very local to you, your loved ones in the wrong place at the wrong time. These are very dangerous public problems that any of us could turn the corner and wind up in a bad situation. So, you know, yes, the people in the suits have more power, but we will see the results of this crap a lot more locally, more, you know, in our lives. So as I mentioned during the beginning of the show about growing some food and catching some water and getting some water filtration and, you know, planting some perennials and, you know, working in the garden to get long-term results and stability and reliability so that you could, if not live off the grid, you could supplement your diet and your other stuff. It's a better way to be, I think. I prefer it. I enjoy it. It is a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be. You know, I believe in preparedness. I guess it's the Boy Scout in me. Always be prepared. Always be prepared. Prepared for anything. Okay. Prepared for anything. So, yeah. That's a good point, though. I like your point. Like the FBI. Yeah, throw any 3 letters at the wall. I'm sure there's an agency for that. All right, here's Marjorie Taylor Greene, pretty frustrated, kind of like all of us are. What's going on? Why are we not moving faster? Why are we not getting more done? This is Bowling on Real America's Voice with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Gee, really good to have you, my friend. So tell us, I woke up, I read that, and you're upset. Tell us what you're upset about.
Well, that's a message that resonated with everyone that I know and everyone that I've been talking to, and by the comments all over every single social media platform where my post was posted. The base agrees. You see, the November 2024 election was historic. It was a mandate. And it was also a hard shot and clear message to the Republican Party that you didn't win this election. President Trump won this election.
Yeah.
His MAGA policies won this election. And I would also argue Maha policies won that election. So
Hey, you know what? It certainly didn't hurt that we were able to put a voice to Maha and put a voice to Doge. Now we see Doge, and look, I know people that have legitimately lost their jobs. I know that budgets have been cut and things have been recalibrated. I understand that, but government was running very bloated, very inefficiently, very expensively. We had to recalibrate. You know, this is essentially what Mitt Romney was trying to bring to the table. He worked with Staples and the Olympics. What was it? Venture capitalism, but he would work with companies to kind of get them back on their feet again, moving in the right direction. So that's sort of what America's been needing for a long time is an audit and a redesign. And so we had, one of the best engineers redesign government a little bit. Where's the money going? Where should it be going? How do we track it? How do we trace it? How do we follow it? How do we block it? How do we verify it? How do we remove waste, fraud, and abuse? How do we de-weaponize it? Because it had been weaponized. Our federal government had turned on conservatives, libertarians, MAGA members, Maha members, common sense people, 80% of the country, 90%. I mean, if you look at the actual policies that were discriminated against, it went against about 100% of the country. Because the only agenda that side has, minus any BS around the edges, is just something lean, something effective, something responsible, something capable, something that works, something verifiable, something not too intrusive. And it became weaponized, bloated, expensive, and untenable. So yeah, I mean, there were jobs that were lost and good people lost them, but that's not chaos. That's the other place went bankrupt. You're under new management. They sold, new leadership, go. New plan, go. It's just a new plan, go. All right, so either you get it or you don't. So I'm with Marjorie Taylor Greene, though, frustrated. What is taking so long? Why aren't we getting more done?
The electorate that gave the Republicans the majority in the House and the Senate want the agenda accomplished, and it's not happening. And Eric, when I'm frustrated, I can tell you it's an early indicator of what's to come. And I felt it was very important to get out in front and make that message clear.
So tell us, MTG, may I call you MTG? I'll call you Congresswoman, but we're close friends. I'm not being disrespectful. I adore you, and I love what you're doing, and your constituents adore you too. What specifically are you upset and the base is upset about?
Yeah, there's some big ones, and I think everyone needs to understand. In Joe Biden's first 100 days, Nancy Pelosi sent 11 bills to his desk in that first 100 days. And
by the way, the better the bill, the easier to understand. Do a one-page bill, get some shit done.
One of them included their reconciliation.
Problem is, Trump doesn't have his whole team yet. That's one of the frustrating parts. And you hear polls, we expect the Democrats to pick up some seats. Pick up some seats. How in the world do you expect to do that? Okay. But a lot of people in Congress are still some of the rhino holdovers, the globalists, the infiltrators, the traitors. The deep state, whatever you want to call it. Republican in sheep clothing. So, I mean, they're trying to get some stuff done, but they're not getting enough done or getting it done fast enough. It felt like we were in a whirlwind and that everything was moving in molasses. I think President Trump gets an A+ on some areas of the first 100 days, and I think he gets an F on some other areas from the first 100 days. The JFK files, the Epstein files, what the fuck, Like I'm almost witnessing Schrodinger's administration. It's an A+ and it's an F. On one hand, he's moving at the speed of light. I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing, and so many things are getting repaired. And also, nothing's happening on the big releases. A lot of letdowns. Like, you need to go. What are we waiting for? The flip side to that is like, hold on. There's a lot of infiltrators that they have to work out of their system. You've seen the pushback against Doge, against MAGA from the judiciary. You've seen it from governmental agencies. You've seen it across the board. And so give them a second to go through their organization and remove the problems and make sure that your team is as strong as you need it to be. Go through a full NFL draft, put new players in these positions, and then go with those players. You know, that's how you relaunch. That's how you rebuild. And that does take a second. And with the judiciary being as intrusive as it has been, we're learning the limitations. Well, you need to go. You need to hurry up. You need to go fast. You need to get some of this stuff done. So what do you do with that? What do you do with that? It's Schrodinger's administration. It's an A+ and it's an F. I get it. I've been listening for years, and there's some people that are like, oh, just wait. We got this. There's a plan. Oh, everything will be fine. Don't worry. It's on the way. Just a little bit long. It's almost here. It's almost here. It's the equivalent of working at Joe's Crab Shack, and on the side of the building where I bartended for a while, it says free crab. It's painted on the side of the wall. Free crab tomorrow. And you pull in tomorrow and it says free crab tomorrow. There's never a today. That's what it feels like waiting on the indictments, waiting on the arrests, waiting on Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to do the obvious. What are you waiting for? I watched the other side. I mean, multiple attempts on President Trump, all of the lawfare to lock him up and Epstein him up. It's been atrocious. And either that's the thing that we do now, or there have to be repercussions for all of this stuff, the treachery, the treason. So yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, her frustration, I share it.
Bill, and they had virtually almost the same margins that we have in the House and the Senate, but they got the job done. In President Trump's first 100 days, we only sent 5 bills to his desk, and that included a Biden Democrat CR. Not our reconciliation. That's just one of many things. President Trump has written more historic executive orders than Joe Biden did in 4 years, and we aren't voting on those every single week here in the House, and we should be. The American people want to see us voting and passing his executive orders, because those executive orders that we support are only temporary unless we codify them into law. But let's go even further, Eric. We're looking at Doge cuts, and Doge is one of the most patriotic, important things that are happening today. And we should be passing those rescissions through the House and the Senate. And yes, they can go through because they only require 51 votes in the Senate. And so does reconciliation. But I want to go a step further, Eric, because there's big issues that the American people care about. One of them is Ukraine.
Oh, Ukraine. You take over and it's like this thing is just still going on. And it really wasn't your idea. You don't want it to continue, it seems like. But it doesn't really seem like either of those parties want it to stop. What are we supposed to do? To what degree?
We don't want to be tied into a never-ending funding situation with a mineral deal, because we've been down that road before. In Iraq, it wasn't oil in the Middle East that made us rich. We're $36 trillion in debt. It wasn't rare earth minerals in Afghanistan that made America rich. Those were abandoned when Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. And now being tied into a deal that we don't support in Ukraine is a huge disappointment. But if you read the language of the agreement, we're now responsible for the safety, the prosperity, and the reconstruction of Ukraine. And America didn't bomb Ukraine. As a matter of fact, we've been against that war pretty much from day one. So it's no more for.
I don't understand why that would. And I'm going to go ahead and trust Marjorie Taylor Greene's interpretation of that agreement. If her understanding is incorrect, correct me, but I'll just go off of that. I don't claim to be an expert on this mineral rights deal. But if that's tying us to a perpetual situation over there, I don't, for the life of me, understand. That would be disappointing on levels. I don't even know how to describe how disappointing on most levels that would be. That's the forever situation that you're trying to avoid. Why on earth would you agree to anything like that? I don't understand that part, if her understanding is correct.
Foreign wars we're not interested in. And then let's do something about COVID, Eric. The COVID vaccine is still on the childhood vaccine schedule. This is something that has moms and dads furious, and they are demanding that vaccine get pulled off the childhood vaccine schedule because their children shouldn't be required to take that vaccine in order to go to school.
So that's happening. I'm surprised Bobby Kennedy hasn't put an end to that. I'm really surprised. How long has it been since was it like a month in before he got nominated or confirmed? Regardless.
And many other issues.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to, the first one, let's talk about it. And it really is important to get these executive orders codified. Why aren't they? Is it Speaker Johnson? He's not bringing. You have the House, you have the Senate. I mean, if you want to really scare the you know what out of people, you got 18 months, 20 months, and after that, you risk not having the House and the Senate, and you risk Trump's full agenda. You have to get all of this through in the next 20 months. I mean,
you have to get it all through in the next 20 months. Get on the same page. Isn't their job to whip everybody into shape and get them on the same page? Am I understanding that right? David saying, well, it's time to shut it down and stop the control. A human being says JP Morgan banks and stock control everything. Stock control stops everything. David wondering if Blondie is close with some of the bad people. What has Congress actually done since January? Good questions. 20 months. What has taken so long?
Where's the holdup?
Well, President Trump isn't on the ballot in 2026, and my Republican Party colleagues seem to not understand what that really means. And I'll be real honest with you. I'm going to point fingers at everyone. You know, I went to more rallies with President Trump, campaigning with him, supporting him. And I know what the American people stood up cheering for with tears streaming down their face. And that's Agenda 47. That's the agenda that he laid out. That's the agenda that he was campaigning on when he was shot in the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania, and almost assassinated in front of the entire world. And many of my Republicans here in Congress never went to a single one of those rallies. Many of my Republicans here in Congress didn't support him after the 2020 election, didn't support him after January 6th like I did. I never left his side. And I told everyone that he is our president and he will be our president again. So you see, the message that the American people sent seems to get lost here in Washington, D.C.
So this is part of the problem. He doesn't really have the support in Congress that he would need. So why can't there be a big red wave, a red tsunami? Why couldn't there be? I don't get this. Well, traditionally, you know, if a president wins, it swings back the opposite way in the following election 2 years later. This isn't a normal election. This is on the heels of something that many say 2020, the last big election. Oh, it turned out how it turned out, but that wasn't. No. Look, you try it again, and this is what things actually look like. And that's what they're going to keep looking like across the board. Nothing's changing. Nobody's decided they disagree with their previous opinions. They're doubling down and going, yes. All right. Just restore a little bit of order, like some sort of fix some of this broken stuff. You just look around. It's like everything needs some attention. It's like, just get to work, finish it all, fix it. This president, he's a builder. He likes building things and fixing stuff. It's cool to see. But some of these deals, it leaves you shaking your head. Some of these bills that are brought up for consideration and then pulled at the last minute are very concerning. Very confusing, really. Bella's Chance. What's up, Bella's Chance? Saying, I don't have even one tiny, tiny care about Ukraine. Yeah, I'm not pot committed. I don't care so far as I don't have a horse in the race. Look, we just had the Kentucky Derby. I didn't place a bet. I don't have a horse. I am not rooting for anybody in particular. I'm not rooting against anybody in particular. In fact, you know what I'd be rooting for? I'd be rooting for that today is the first day that we can both go home safely with peace. And we sort it out quickly, and we really find a way to move along and try to hit reset on this thing. We've been yelling at each other so long, it's been hard to even, like how did we get here? I get it. Draw a line. Let's figure this out and stop this. I feel like that's the side that most people are on. You'd like to see the hostilities ending. So that's the tiny care that I have. David in Ontario, Bella in the COD. A human being, where are you watching us from? I like to know where people, what part of the universe a human being is watching our show from today. But yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene is right to be frustrated, and she's calling out the people who are not supporting Trump, supporting President Trump, and she's reminding them that President Trump is not running 2 years from now. So when these elections come up, or I guess we're in the middle of the election season now, she's reminding you that you're not going to have that pull to get people out. But I don't know. I think it's very obvious to people that if he's from the earth. I don't even know if you're a he or a she, a human being from the earth. Got it. Ukraine is one of the most corrupt countries on earth. Yeah, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying it's a MAGA and a Maha agenda. Bobby Kennedy trying to bring some health. You know, do you agree with all of his decisions, all of his opinions? You don't have to. You can just say, I appreciate that he's, going 100% here to try to fix some of these problems. Our air, our water, our food, and our medicine. Awesome. Let's just look at it with some fresh perspective and run an audit on our health system. That's what he's doing. That's what Doge did for our federal government. That's essentially what Bobby's doing. They're just going to run an audit and say, hey, what's actually good for us and what's bad for us? And what are we funding and what are we stopping? That's fantastic. But that's the agenda we voted for. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just frustrated that we still have a couple of Republicans not supporting President Trump. So am I.
And, I think it should be like this, Eric. I think we put those executive orders to the floor and we dare Republicans to vote against them, because what's brewing up right now? Primary season. Yep. And this gives every Republican voter across the country a good look at their representative to decide, does this person represent what I voted for? And if they don't, they have a chance to change that. And that's the way elections work.
DG really good.
So there you go. You're going to see a mad dash to get some stuff done. Here is the Officer Tatum talking about this incident that happened up in Cincinnati. This incident bothers me. This criminal went out and started terrorizing his community and ended up getting shot by the police. So then the father tracks down a police officer and ends his life. This is like similar to the Luigi story. Something like, very different, but some similarities. Vigilante stuff. Here you go.
His dad raised a dirt bag.
Thursday morning, Cincinnati officers tracked down a stolen vehicle.
As you know, we had a critical incident yesterday.
4 people get out and start running. In body cam footage released today, in just 6 seconds, police say 18-year-old Ryan Hinton aims his gun at officers.
He's got a gun.
Police shoot and kill him. Today on MLK Drive, a deputy is working traffic control for UC graduation when a driver crashes into him.
There is a connection between these two incidents. The driver of today's vehicle that struck a deputy
it wasn't an accident. This was an attack.
has a family relationship with the 18-year-old that we shot yesterday.
Ryan Hinton's father, 38-year-old Rodney Hinton, is charged with aggravated murder in the deputy's death.
That man had a good reputation, according to what I've seen, and he didn't have nothing to do with the shooting. He's not the one that shot that boy. But
oh, if that's true, how does just you go after somebody randomly because they're on their team, because they root for a certain team.
They white, he want to run them down.
Oh, he's white too. They didn't show a picture of the deceased. Up until this moment, I didn't know there was a racial component to the story.
I think it's a racial matter. A father could be upset that his son was killed, especially that way. But a good father wouldn't have never let his kid get in that situation. And a good father, if his son is in that situation, he would be mindful that my son was wrong. Now, as a father, I understand the hurt.
Okay, that's an interesting point. A good father wouldn't let it get to that point, but even if you allowed it to get to that point, or there was nothing you could do to get it to that point, you would be mindful of the reality, and you wouldn't have an anger toward the way things played out because you knew it was ultimately going down this path. He was making poor decisions, reckless decisions that were leading to stuff like this. All right, that's a fair point, I think, that he's making. It's either one of two. Either you did a really good job keeping him out of that situation, or you did a bad job, or you did a good job and they just went a bad path regardless. However you got there, you should at least be mindful of who that person was and what they were doing leading up to that. Interesting.
The pain it would cause you to lose your son. But at some point, you got to take accountability that you raised a boy who in a stolen vehicle with a gun in his possession. The boy's only 18 years old, so he don't have a legal right to own a gun.
Now, I thought 18, let me ask. Bobby Kennedy has been the HHS secretary since February 13, 2025. So February to March to April, about 2.5 months now, Bobby Kennedy's been in. How old to own a handgun in Ohio? Asking Grok. No minimum age. You must be 21 to purchase a handgun from a federally licensed dealer or private seller, with exceptions for those 18 or older who are law enforcement officers. Oh, 21. Purchase a handgun from a federally licensed dealer or private seller. Okay. I didn't know that was a component to the story. Because that was remember the Kyle Rittenhouse. He wasn't even old enough to own a gun. Yeah, sad story. It's an angering story. They're talking about illegal aliens being sent to Alcatraz. Here's Pam Bondi.
President suggested over the weekend maybe rebuild and reopen Alcatraz, put him there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean someplace.
I'm all for that. All for that. And I think it will be a cost savings. We'll have specially trained guards. They'll be in isolation. They won't be able to run their businesses. And it sends a very strong message that if you do this, you are going to be out of our society forever. Had these guys been housed at Alcatraz, this would have never, ever happened. They're drug dealers, they're the worst of the worst, and they're killers.
So they're making their push. We said, how about we start with Fauci? Where are the damned arrests, Pam? She does a lot of Fox News spots for not putting indictments out. Here's Byron Donalds talking about what's going on in America as you're trying to figure out, are we better off or worse off than we were before? Listen to what Byron's take on this is. He's one of the best communicators the GOP has.
All, if you look at where we are, prices have come down. Even the GDP read that just came out that showed a contraction. You know why that is? It's because of the federal government contracting. That's a good thing. Private investment in the economy year over year is up over 20%. Personal consumption in the economy year over year is up over 2%. So individuals are consuming. There's private domestic investment in our economy. The federal government is shrinking. Yeah. But when it comes to goods, prices are coming down. If people make purchasing decisions on what they're going to do with their own resources, those are their personal choices. Overall, if you look at where we are, prices have come down. Even the GDP read that just came out that showed a contraction. You know why that is? It's because of the federal government contracting. That's a good thing. Private investment in the economy year over year.
Sorry, that did restart there. He makes a good point. If the government is contracting, that's a good thing because it's becoming leaner, meaner, more efficient, more effective, the way that you need it to. It'll show up temporarily a certain way, but moving forward, it's going to be savings. You know, sometimes you have to make an investment to see some savings. So I think that's a very good point that he's making there. Yeah, Byron Donald's pretty good.
If you were
CNN asking questions they really didn't want the answers to about the purge.
to run for president, though, it would be as a Democrat or no?
CNN asking Stephen A. Smith, if you run for president, would it be as a Democrat?
You know what? I'm an independent. I'm a registered independent. I would lean who leans left. I'm fiscally conservative when it comes to my money. I'm socially liberal. I'm liberal when it comes to social issues pretty much across the board. I believe in living and let living. So I'm a moderate, and I would say if I had to run, it would be as a Democrat, but I'm not happy with the Democratic Party as presently constructed. It would pretty much need to be purged in order for me to assume that I would want to be associated with them, because I don't like the way they've gone about doing a lot of things.
Did you hear that? What a great response. Shit. If they're smart, that is the next leader of that party. They are so lost with their bullshit. They are so lost. I think the Democrat Party needs to be ended. I think it's time. It's time that it's no longer the opposing party. And that party deserves to be disbanded for 100 reasons. But Stephen A. Smith is really spot on here, I think.
For a very, very long period of time. And I think that I don't view Donald Trump as winning the election. I view the Democrats as losing the election. As absolutely.
I would disagree there. I've never seen a candidate put together something quite like what President Trump did. It was truly historic. Top to bottom. Just astonishing. I mean, I get his point that the Democrats are so bad they gave it away, but it's not like there was some average candidate on the other side. We were seeing stuff that was like, wow. It was like coming out of a movie. The Butler, Pennsylvania, the high stakes of, you know, being locked up for life, because it's just the storyline was so ratcheted up to 11. It was like all of these simultaneous storylines were so interesting. And then we watched the Democrat Party stage a coup to overthrow the sitting president of the United States, like many accused that group of doing in 2020 to overthrow the sitting president of the United States, going, this is twice in a row we're accusing this group of overthrowing the sitting president of the United States. That same group, we've watched what many people say were two attempts to actually successful attempts to overthrow the sitting president of the United States. So I'm not going to agree with Stephen A. Smith that, you know, the Democrats, it was too many unforced errors. No, you might have just played somebody that was a superior candidate, a superior athlete, and you were beaten by a better opponent that day, because you were. I mean, it wasn't even close. And if you fix up the voter rolls and you fix up the vote tabulation systems, I'll bet you it might have been a much wider margin as well. Speculation, of course, but I can have that speculative hunch.
Absolutely, positively blowing it with some of their actions, and that's why
He's saying that the Democrats absolutely blew it with some of their actions. I mean, yes, okay. I mean, that can also be true. I'm not saying that he's. I mean, it's true to say that, but I don't think it supersedes the fact that you were up against a very unique, unbeatable candidate in a moment in time.
I think that, again, if somebody was to associate me with that, the party is presently constructed where it leads so extremely left, or at least it spent the vast majority of time doing that. Oh, that is not something that I would vibe with at all. I would definitely be looking to be a game changer in that regard.
If you were.
Yeah. Remember, they didn't like Tulsi Gabbard, and they didn't like Bernie Sanders, and they didn't like Bobby Kennedy. Bernie took his money and he stepped aside, and he does his little puppet shows from time to time. Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy had some integrity, so they walked away. They left that sinking rat ship that sabotages the will of the people every chance that they get. They did it to Bernie Sanders. You think people wanted Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders? The energy was for Hillary. Was for Hillary to lose. The energy was for Bernie Sanders. There's unfinished business in the journalism realm about what happened during all of that mess. Hey, Stephen A. Smith is quite cogent in that opinion, I think. Hey, Joey Manarino says, don't you just hate when Republicans demand accountability and then don't do a single thing about it, but pout and shout? We said, where are the effing arrests, Bondi? Where are the arrests? Harrison Smith. Do you agree or disagree with his take?
What if only black people voted? Well, everywhere would be Democrat. What if only Jewish people voted? Everywhere would be Democrat. What if only Hispanic people voted?
Music.
Everywhere would be Democrat.
Okay. I can't play it because of the music. Doggone it. Anyway, watch it. It's on our Instagram feed. I hate not being able to play stuff with music. It's just music in the background, insignificant, but I swear YouTube keeps flagging it through there. And it's all automated. They're automated algorithms that grab it, and then they say, oh, we can't play your show that you worked all that time to sift through the stories and provide context and kind of talk our way through and as we try to figure out what's going on. No, we're just not going to share it with anyone because some bullshit elevator music happened to be playing behind a conversation I was interested in sharing with you. It's not worth it. And it's frustrating. Sorry, a little too much inside baseball, but, most of my appeals are working, to be fair. But what is this one from the Amuse account?
Offender registry contains a massive array of crimes, including, having sex in a car or in a park. That gets you on the sex offender registry. We also know that LGBTQ people have been massively and disproportionately targeted.
Okay, so this gentleman, Scott Weiner, the Amuse account is saying that LGBTQ dominate sex offender registries, committing twice as many sex crimes as the general population, and as a result, they're overrepresented more than 2 times on offender registries. California Senator Scott Weiner wants to eliminate the list and has no interest in understanding what is going on in his community.
And subjected to being slammed onto the sex offender registry. That's the whole history of the sex offender registry. So this aspect of the bill is incredible.
So, I mean, I get what he's saying. If you have sex in a public place, now you're a sex offender. It's like, yeah, maybe there was an indiscretion. Maybe there was just a little no harm, no foul. Maybe it was pretty disrespectful and you shouldn't have done that. Or maybe it's like humans being human. Come on, what are we getting all worked up about? If you have, what if you're doing it in a car? You're in public, but you're in private, and you're not intending to do it for voyeuristic purposes or to expose yourself in find some sort of strange gratification in it. What if you're just, kids having fun? But also focusing on that one particular component might not be helpful to all the other stuff that's really the point of the story. If you're not okay with the point of the story, which is, we're not talking about these rare occurrences, these sometimes moments, but we're talking about like the really worst of the worst stuff. So you would maybe work to carve out some of these exclusions and maybe treat them in a different way as some sort of a, let's meet in the middle here. I want to address this concern, but I get what you're saying, and we agree. We don't want to see anybody abused or taken advantage of. So let's make this happen. You're not seeing that give and take. You're just seeing a block, which seems to indicate that you're in favor of the other thing. Not sure if I'm making sense here, but
Incredibly overbroad and discriminatory.
So Democrats on Barbaric Barbary says Democrats are unwilling to examine why members of that community are committing so many crimes. Instead, they simply want to help the offenders hide from their potential victims. He wants to eliminate the registries because the community is overrepresented by 2.5 times. So he's actively trying to remove it because too many of his members are caught up in it. So how about maybe just stop it from happening? And if you want to remove a couple of those provisions and, if they're sort of no victim, no crime type things, I'm willing to listen to taking some names off, but you don't eliminate the registry. You got to protect everybody from the worst of the worst. Like, that's just a non-starter, and it's super sketchy. This right here is Representative Tommy Tuberville discussing due process for illegal aliens.
But shouldn't everybody have due process in this country?
Well, they should have, but if you're a citizen, if you're an illegal, you're given a short period of time and gone. We got to get people back.
They should have
We can't afford it.
But shouldn't they have a hearing?
If they're a citizen and they're criminal, normally they're going to get a court case. If they are not a citizen, no, I'm ready for them to go home. We can't afford it. It's costing you and I and everybody in this country a fortune to pay for people here that shouldn't be here. We're $37 trillion in debt, and I don't understand what people don't get about that.
But bottom line, you're okay if some people who are being detained and deported don't have a hearing, due process.
100%. I think you round them up and you take them home. They came here. They came here possibly to make a life better for them. Okay. Now, I do not want this country to be overrun because we can't afford to pay for it. We can't do it. Now, I'm for giving them an opportunity to pay their way home, which they are. He said today, give them $1,000 to volunteer to do it. That'd be a lot cheaper than what we're having to do now because it's.
And by the way, that is part of the plan that's being proposed. Give you $1,000 to book a flight. Sign up on this list. Raise your hand. We'll book you a flight home. We understand like the whole system has been upside down for a long time. You came here how you came here. But if you go out, come back around, show your ID, maybe we can let you back into the nightclub. But we got to check IDs on everybody. All the dirtbags have to go. We're hitting reset here. Everybody has to go. We got to clean up. We got to restart this. That's what's happening. So yeah, I guess the CBP One app has been turned into the CBP Home app. And so now it's directing you to leave. You have a limited amount of time before you'll be arrested. Encouraging you to book through them. They'll pay for you to get a flight home because it's going to be way more expensive to process you in the American system because you're going to have to be detained. There's a need for some facilities. I mean, there are FEMA camps, right? We always used to joke, broadcasting to you live from FEMA Region 9? What was it? Actually, I'd like to see the FEMA regions. On a map. Let's see if we can get them.
Costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe probably $15,000, $20,000 for each one. So, end of the day, we have to make sure that we get people out of this country that we can't take care of.
But shouldn't everybody have due process?
Yeah, I was in FEMA Region 9, it appears, back in the day. Yes, they would like a mint on their pillow as well. Good morning, Kenneth. Good to see you. So, yeah, that's where we're at with the immigration situation. Let's go over to our X feed, do the rapid fire here. Check out yesterday's episode, man. It was a marathon. There's a lot of stories to consider and a lot of perspectives and, some touchy stories that I don't like getting into very, very much. I just don't see a lot of, I don't know. There's certain stories that I don't prefer spending extra energy on. But there was a ton to discuss yesterday. A really good show if you want to check it out, if you didn't have the chance to listen live like maybe David did or Kenneth did. Feel free to check that out. Hit subscribe and all of that jazz. All right. I'm not going to play this. Well, no, I will play a minute of this. This is from Fox and Friends. You want to hear about some of the things that the Trump administration is doing that's fantastic?
The Trump administration releasing a scathing new report about the severe impact of gender-affirming care, I don't even like that term, in minors, including mental health disorders, cardiovascular disease, and infertility. NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya joins us now. Dr. Bhattacharya,
Well, yeah, I've been warning against the risk to people with perfectly functional body parts. Please hold off. Please consider holding off. Please, you're perfect as you were made. Please. But that's not the story I thought I was pulling up here. Maybe it changes. Top priorities for NIH. All right, yeah, let's pick it up halfway through here, shall we?
Place animals in research with other Alzheimer's in mice, but that doesn't for it. I'll give you a couple of examples. So, for instance,
to change the culture there?
Imagine you'd have scientists been having that all along. I think groupthink is the fundamental problem.
All right.
Is it hard right now to change the culture there?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, it's been interesting to watch. Like I'll do some policy change, and people like try to find the worst possible spin for it. I'll give you a couple of examples. So, for instance, I put out a policy to make sure that we have when we use we have animals in research that we look at alternatives. It's very easy, for instance, to cure Alzheimer's in mice, but those things don't translate to humans. So we've put forward a policy to replace animals in research with other technological advances, AI and other tools that actually translate better to human health. But then I'm getting and we got rid of all the Beagle experiments on the NIH campus.
And these Beagle experiments were just like the most sadistic, demonic forms of torture you could imagine. And if you care anything about the sanctity of life, anything about the concept of a living creature sort of entitled to, if you're going to get a fish to eat, if you're going to get a deer to eat, you dispatch them quickly. You don't drag that process out in a sadistic manner, taking notes. I understand it. But it's hard to unlearn some of these stories, so thank you for stopping it.
But, it's sort of like people just don't trust the NIH anymore, and I can understand why. The NIH
No, we don't trust NIH now at all because of what they did to me and my family.
The pandemic leaned into lockdowns, school closures, all these things. And so I think there's still a level of distrust that the American people have for the NIH that I'm hoping under President Trump we can reverse.
Has PETA reached out to you and told you you're the latest hero? They must be ecstatic with you right now.
They did. I got flowers from PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Normally, I think NIH directors tend to get physical threats, but they sent me flowers.
So anyway, that's some great stuff that's happening. I'm sure that the other 2 minutes are interesting. I'm very much interested in learning about Dr. Is it pronounced Bhattacharya? I think that's how they pronounced it. Anyway. Luke Radowski asking, please tell me this is fake. Please.
Researchers have developed this brain-on-chip technology. This robot is powered by lab-grown human brain cells. Chinese researchers have developed this brain-on-chip technology called MetaBOC. Researchers say that their tiny lab-grown brain could learn tasks faster than current AI models. They say it uses much less energy than AI, which needs a lot of power and data to learn. These brain cells also show more, quote, intuition and creativity than AI, learning with fewer examples. Could this be because some aspect of the human spirit is locked in these brain cells? And is there any moral issue with you?
See, I'm hearing music in the background, wondering if my video is going to get flagged. I'm just interested in hearing what this video is about.
Using human brain cells and possibly the human soul to power robots to perform slave-like behavior.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my God.
This
What is my purpose? You pass butter. Oh my God. To learn that your purpose is to pass butter. Hey, in the comments, what do you think the purpose of humanity is? What's the purpose? Question of the day. Here, let me put it on here. There we go. Question of the day. What is the purpose of your life? Purpose of humanity. There you go. Question of the day. What is the purpose of your life and the purpose of humanity? Curious to get your thoughts on that one. All right. So good. Chinese scientists grew a cerebral organoid, a mini brain made from human stem cells, and connected it to a robot. Awesome. This person is asking about why certain blood work testing is $1,600 when the same test at the nurse practitioner's under $80. And what role, if any, does BlackRock hold in Quest Diagnostics and LabCorp? I don't know. This is her video she's making, and she has a story to tell. Shared through Wall Street Apes. Check it out. It's a 5-minute video. It's on our X feed. President Trump making an announcement. D.C. Mayor Bowser squirming and twitching in the background while President Trump talks about violent criminals.
So they came in by the millions illegally into our country. They just flowed in through an open border policy that was insane. And what we've done is we've offered, you know the numbers, but because we're taking them out by the thousands, we're being obstructed. It's very unfair what's happening because the court system it's very unfair. We have to get them out fast. These are bad people. These are people that are killing, and they've already killed many people in this country. The illegal immigrants that came in illegally through an open border policy, which is insane. We talk about common sense. That's not common sense. And they came in from the Congo, all over Africa, all over Asia, all over South America, parts of Europe. They flowed in and just walked right into our country. We had no idea who they were. 21 million at least. That's probably a low number. You know, you hear lower numbers than that. It's not. That's a low number. But many are really serious. So they came in by the millions illegally into our country. They just flowed in through.
So there you go. I believe this was to announce. I'm having a hard time finding the story. This was about Trump announcement, NFL, about what? They're going to have the NFL draft in D.C.? Wasn't that what it was? I'm having a hard time finding it on X. 22. Okay. On May 5th, President Trump announced that D.C. will host the 27 NFL draft in the National Mall. Announcement made from the Oval Office with Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, Washington Commanders owner Josh Harris, and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. And that will be the spring of 2027, typically late April. Expected attendance over 1 million attendees, surpassing 775 at the 24 Detroit draft. First time DC hosted the draft since 1940. Look at that. Something cool coming to DC. President Trump brings home the bacon. But look, he's already at work cleaning up the city. Pushing really hard to get that squared away. Why did it go there? Okay. John Basham here is saying that former Los Angeles County Sheriff ditches the Democrat Party, joining the party of faith, family, and freedom. Sheriff Villanueva said, I'm leaving the party of paid... Well, here, let's just listen to him in his own words.
As of today, and if you have cameras, get them rolling. Share this on social media. As of today, I'm leaving the party of paid protests, purple hair, and pronouns.
He says, I'm leaving the party of paid protests, purple hair, and pronouns. Ah. Why did it do that?
As of today. I'm joining the party of faith, family, and freedom.
He's joining the party of faith, family, and freedom. So, I mean, come on. Culturally, people are leaving the Democrat Party. Like, they're a toxic brand. There's no way they're going to win seats in this upcoming congressional election. But either way, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Act as if it's going to happen in 20 months, even though it should be a massive red tsunami, because people are just fed up with whatever the D's have been selling. Comfortably Mug reminds you, here's the leaders of the Democrat Party. Look at that illustration, y'all. Look at how nice that is. These are your everyday leaders of the party. You know, Ella Emhoff, a textile artist on the Lower East Side, and Al Sharpton with a picture of himself on the wall. I mean, I'm guessing these are actual photos. Alex Soros and Huma Abedin. Alex Soros with his leg crossed, looking very sassy. And AOC, this is your party, the Democrats. That's why Stephen A. Smith says, until we rethink what the Democrat Party is and purge out the people of that party, he's like, I'm not joining that party. No way. No way. I'm reading this. I don't know if this is accurate, but J.D. Vance was asked this week by Brett Baer who he thought runs the Democrat Party. J.D. hilariously quipped Donald Trump. And really, it is, regardless of that being a true quote or not, their inability to contain themselves regarding all matters Trump, it's really sabotaging their ability to do anything effectively. They're getting played like fiddles. They're losing on every 80-20 issue. This post here asks you to consider where we were as a nation very recently and what in the world changed. Here, let me full screen this.
Remember this.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
You wouldn't believe that looking at the media today, though. They act like Trump is the worst, most evil person ever for deporting illegal alien criminals. Yet Obama, Bill Clinton, and other Democrats were all on board with this for years up until Trump, and they're on tape saying so.
Committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone.
Public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens.
We use phrases like undocumented workers. We convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration.
Oh, really?
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected
undocumented, unchecked.
We will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace.
This is your reminder that Obama deported 5.3 million people and Bill Clinton deported 12.3 million. They were fine with it then. Why the sudden change of heart?
There you go. Why the sudden change of heart? Indeed. What changed? Thank you for the thoughtful reply to our question of the day. What is the purpose of your life? What is the purpose of humanity? The question is right here at the bottom of the screen. QOTD. Human being won't let us know which area of planet Earth he's on or she is on. They are on. It's just fun for the program. The response is the purpose. Purpose of your life, purpose of humanity. To carry all the memories stored in our DNA, to adapt and drop seeds so we can keep the people, the human beings, moving forward. To learn we are all human beings, and when do all the separation stops? And when we do, all the separation stops, I think. All right. Let's look at the state of journalism. Brandon Straka. Whoop, play.
Message is gold. The media screws it up.
Yeah, they just have such a hard time getting their message out. That's the biggest problem. It's not as though like 95% of the media is left-leaning and carries water for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
If their message is so great, I'd love to know why they have a 22% approval rating right now with the American people. I think that they need to take a look at their messaging. It's not resonating at all.
No.
I don't want to give the Democrats too much free advice, but it's not resonating. Kenneth, are you saying the purpose of life is lies, lies, lies? Yeah. David saying, I don't really know what the purpose is. Yeah, I don't know. I was having a conversation and someone felt like, I just don't get the point. It's just get up, go to work, come home, make some food, spend a couple minutes on something, then go to bed, get up and do the same thing over again. You know, what is the purpose? What's your purpose? 93% of journalists identify as somewhat to very liberal. Media is the Democrat Party's biggest enabler, says Brandon Straka. Even with that advantage, they're sitting at a pathetic 22% approval. Time to walk away. All right, a couple more stories here. This is our show from yesterday. Sovereignty defeating journalism. Just that is the simulation winking at ourselves. Our ability to govern and take care of the most important things will not get defeated by an out-of-control propaganda rag that's riling people up for purposes of power and control and manipulation and money laundering and abuse. That's really the way it's been for far too long. And we'll see now that some of the funding mechanisms have dried up how things are going to change. But we had an awesome show yesterday. Check it out. And if you're not subscribed to our Rumble channel, subscribe to our Rumble channel. It's a good channel. Kenneth's purpose is to wake, bake, and ache. All right. What is going on with these non-governmental organizations? Wall Street Apes shared this video.
So it turns out 7,000 politically connected NGOs are receiving 90% of all taxpayer money going to nonprofits. Roughly $300 billion in government money flows through nonprofits every year with zero transparency with regard to where that money goes. The American people deserve access to the books of any entity that takes government money, and all information about how that money is used and the communications around it need to be considered public record. That's our money, and these NGOs need to start answering to us.
Agree or disagree with that? Gorklon Rust. Friggin' Elon. He calls this the biggest scam ever. It's all money laundering. James O'Keefe is saying he's got something really big coming out on Wednesday. Take a look.
They can't suicide us all.
Jeez. Well, you saw that, didn't you? All right. Yeah, I don't know about this show, but it looked interesting. The Jab or Your Job podcast. You know, we can't ever forget where we're coming from. Emerging from COVID. Let me see if this is in English or not.
Wir haben heute gesehen,
Nope.
dass Lügen
Das Luten das Eben ab den Globen.
Wir haben heute gesehen, dass Lügen
Das Luten. Okay, Naomi Sibt. I don't know. Naomi says, breaking, Friedrich Merz loses chancellor election. This is Germany. For the first time in history, the designated chancellor loses the parliamentary election. This is the consequence of his unprecedented voter betrayal. Alice Weidel says, today we saw that liars won't get far. Ella Vlardingersbrook says we have an interesting development in Germany. Friedrich Merz went flat on his face in the Bundestag today as he became the first candidate in German history to not get enough votes in the first round of voting to be elected chancellor. So he's been eliminated, I think is what they're saying. His coalition is supposed to have an absolute majority, 50% plus one, in parliament, but the German constitution requires that the parliament votes anonymously to appoint the chancellor and officially form the government. Merz didn't get enough votes, showing some members of his own coalition turned on him. They're voting again in 14 days, and if he still doesn't obtain an absolute majority by then, new elections will most likely be held. I'm assuming they won't let that happen, though, and they'll do everything to have everyone on board to avoid AfD from getting another shot at becoming the largest party. But hey, a girl can dream. Fingers crossed. So many people are saying that the AfD, and I'm not super familiar with them, but they're more of a MAGA, make Germany great again, nationalistic, secure your borders and secure your elections to make sure only your residents are apportioning positions of power throughout the country. They're rethinking where they're at. I mean, they're speaking pretty clearly. And it just kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen up in Canada with Carney. I don't see Carney lasting very long. And I saw yesterday, I believe it was not Ontario. What was it? David? When I say somebody's name wrong and then I move to the other name, I feel like my grandmother when she'd go down the list of all the people like, I'm trying to talk to you. You know, you're the one with this name that I got on the tip of my tongue. So keep your eyes peeled on Germany. Is it a bellwether? Is that going to be, a signal of more to come? Lie to the people, pay the price. This is a victory for democracy. Only the AfD can save Germany, says Naomi. So take a look at Germany. Okay, Mila Joy says President Trump won Texas by 13 points, Louisiana by 18, North Carolina by 3, Maine by 7. Yet the following senators are refusing to confirm Trump's choice for U.S. attorney in D.C., who's Ed Martin. You got John Cornyn, Tom Tillis, Susan Collins, and Bill Cassidy. They are breaking their vow to their constituents to represent them. Call them and let them know your feelings. Here are their names. Here are their numbers. I don't understand why any of them would be blocking President Trump from putting an attorney into the office that's going to do the job that's needed. We're seeing a lot of lawfare resistance right now. So I can't say I'm super familiar with Ed Martin, but you elected President Trump to put his pieces in place. You elected him to put his players on the board. So put him on the board. Mila Joy says Ed Martin will be the best U.S. attorney Washington, D.C. has ever seen. So it's no wonder that several rhinos are refusing to confirm him. Cornyn, Tillis, Collins, Cassidy. Their nose on Martin. If Martin isn't confirmed by May 20, then Judge Boasberg. Okay, so look, a vote against this judge is a vote for Boasberg. Come on. Boasberg is at the center of all of these problems right now. And the allegations are that he's manipulating the case wheel to make sure the big important cases keep coming to him so that he can block President Trump along the way as if he thinks he's the president of the United States. These are serious accusations. And when you hear President Trump talk about rebuilding Alcatraz and putting judges out there and traitors out there, you got to wonder if Judge Boasberg is on that list. Or any Supreme Court justices. So it's an interesting conversation to wonder why these Republicans are saying Boasberg should get more say. And how quickly can these people be replaced in Congress? And how quickly can they hold off the Democrats in a red wave coming up in the midterms? And that's when President Trump can really get to work. Chicago Ray saying, if the Senate doesn't confirm Ed Martin, Judge Boasberg can make the appointment. Not to worry, though, because Trump will fire whoever Boasberg appoints before the ink is dry. If Tillis and Cassidy don't pledge to confirm Martin, and then raise your hand if you want to see them face a primary challenge. Mark Lynch is saying, if Lindsey Graham and Senate Republicans, led by Thune, Tillis, Cornyn, block Ed Martin's confirmation, Trump-hating activist Judge James Boasberg, the guy blocking deportation flights, who also helped cover up the Russiagate fraud. Are you aware of that? Boasberg also helped cover up the Russiagate fraud. This guy is a traitor most foul. Boasterd. David saying it's Alberta that wants out of Canada. So that's the one that wants to join the United States, right? Right up there by their, right up there by North Dakota and stuff in that general area. Bella's chancing our purpose, perhaps to please God. You've heard that famous quote, resistance to tyranny is, You've heard the famous quote, resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. You know, and that's maybe why some people like you, the viewer, you wouldn't be hanging out here if you had a differing opinion. You wouldn't last here very long. Or maybe you would, I don't know, doubtful. But yeah, I think there's an instinct or a calling or a reflex. You can call it whatever term you would like to use. If the purpose of life is to please God, and if God can't stand tyranny, then hey, opposition to tyranny is obedience to God. That's a good answer. So anyway, this Judge Boasberg also helped cover up the Russiagate fraud. And he would get to handpick the U.S. Attorney General for D.C.? Hell no. Hell no. All right, take a look at this. Polish politician. Yeah, I'm sharing you some international stuff because it is sort of all connected. You almost saw that the global sigh of relief that other people can stand up against their tyrannical government to bring it back for their people. And you're seeing a global push for sovereignty. I don't know, David, what did happen with President Trump and Carney today? I didn't see it. If you know of something, share a link or tell me what to look up. I'll take a look. But this Polish politician here, Grzegorz Braun, tore down the European Union flag, wiped his shoes with it, and burned it. He stated that Poland would not display the symbols of what he called a hostile organization. This is Poland, not Brussels. So they're not going to be subservient. They are foreign organization. I actually don't know how you can. I've never wrapped it up. I think President Trump gave people courage.
Słucham. Komu, szanowna pani? Komu? Dziecko. Zlituj się nad sobą. Zlituj się nad sobą i jak się nie wstydzisz ludzi, bój się Bogu.
Traktat lizboński, proszę przeczytać.
W ogóle nie ma czegoś takiego. Nie ma czegoś takiego. Nie ma takiego państwa. Chwała Bogu, nie ma jeszcze takiego państwa. Więc nie będziemy w Polsce, w polskim ministerstwie eksponować znaków wrogich nam organizacji, które, chwała Bogu, nie mają statusu państwowego i w związku z tym tego typu emblematy nie są otoczone żadną ochroną prawną na terenie Rzeczpospolitej Polskiej. Tu jest Polska, nie Bruksela.
The guy that set up. Poland has been invaded. All of Europe has been invaded. The Obama government. I guess this video ends here. Well, he said that he burned it. I didn't see him burn it.
Przed południem w Ministerstwie Przemysłu nasi posłowie przeprowadzili interwencję poselską, która dotyczyła tak zwanej
give it a second.
Przed południem.
But they've had enough. And they're frustrated. They don't answer to the European Union. This just in, libs of TikTok say that Education Secretary Linda McMahon sent a scathing letter to Harvard informing them that they are no longer receiving any federal funding. Libs of TikTok says, go woke, go broke. I believe, well, I played a clip of Bobby Kennedy. I don't know if I played this exact clip, so I'm going to play this again regardless. It's our number one story. So we'll just give you this one press conference here about the executive order and what Fauci was doing with gain of function.
The first relates to gain of function research. Gain of function research is a type of biomedical research where pathogens are adulterated, viruses are adulterated to make them more potent or to change the way that they function. Many people believe that gain of function research was one of the key causes of the COVID pandemic that struck us in the last decade. What this executive order does, first of all, it provides powerful new tools to enforce the ban on federal funding for gain of function research abroad. It also strengthens other oversight mechanisms related to that issue and creates an overarching strategy to ensure that biomedical research in general is being conducted safely and in a way that ultimately protects human health more.
It's a big deal. It could have been that we wouldn't have had the problem we had.
A lot of people say that, sir.
If we had this done earlier. Thank you.
I mean, maybe if this was done earlier, maybe it wouldn't have happened. But like I said, I do have that question. I thought Obama stopped it, so they just offshored it. So if it's still blocked, what did he exactly sign? I guess it wasn't blocked. So there could still be federal funding for gain of function virus research. I thought that was blocked. So just something about the story. I'm missing a part of the story here, but Gorklon Rust. Boss. I had him call me Gorklon Rust. That's my Elon laugh. We're either living in a simulation or something. I made him call me Gorklon Rust. So anyway, this is great. No more funding research that kills millions of people. I made him call me Gorklon Rust. The real name for gain of function is death maximization. That's what Fauci was actually researching. And so we said this, so many questions and comments. First, thank you, Donald Trump and team. Second, will you direct Pam Bondi to indict Fauci for his crimes against humanity? Third, what punishment will China face for potentially intentionally unleashing this demon upon the globe? And that was the topic of today's program. And that's what I want us to be thinking about and working toward. GTA 6 has been released, and it's going to have 6 main map locations: Vice City, Leonida Keys, Grass Rivers, Port Gilliam, Ambrosia, and Mount Calaga National Park. Look at some of these images coming out. Let me full screen this, maybe. They're not a sponsor, so I don't care, other than, it looks kind of cool. This is going to be the new thing. Sweeping landscapes. Interesting. People were talking about that earlier today. Here we go. And there's the trailer if you would like to check it out. They're very cinematic. That's exactly what they are. People have been waiting for GTA for a long time. Leading report here is putting out that President Trump's 2026 budget proposal would allegedly effectively dismantle Section 8 programs. So that's something I want to get some more information on. And I can assure you that I think a reimagination of what a general housing assistance project could look like, I think that could be reimagined. I think there's a lot of problems with the way things have been. If this goes through, I'll have plenty to say on the matter. I promise. Darth Powell says, from an industry insider on Trump canceling Section 8, this is a Band-Aid that is long overdue to tear off. I cannot tell you how corrupt and broken Section 8 is. It would immediately put downward pressure on rents. This guy here, Matt Forney, says this piece of ass landlord is stealing money from the federal government, buying up properties, turning them into Section 8 black holes, destroying property values, and turning whole neighborhoods into unlivable dumps. I hope the Trump administration puts him in prison. Now, I don't know anything about that, but there's a video here. There's stuff to consider. Take a look. It's an interesting subject about what we design our neighborhoods to be. Representative Mary Miller, proudly serving the 15th District of Illinois, put this out. She's House GOP Freedom Caucus, and says the first person sent to Alcatraz should be Anthony Fauci. And we said, put Fauci in a see-through display cage that we can view and speak to while tours continue during expansion and renovations. Put Fauci in his cage immediately. Also, how will China answer for their role in unleashing this demon upon humanity? And who will join St. Anthony in Alcatraz? That was essentially the segment that I put together, producing today's program for you. The nuts and bolts of it. I can dream, can't I? Mila Joy, once again, is reporting that Stephen Miller's America First legal team has taken on Chief Justice John Roberts in a bold lawsuit. In a fiery move to restore executive authority, America First Legal, led by Trump's powerhouse advisor Stephen Miller, has filed a blockbuster lawsuit against Chief Justice John Roberts and Robert Conrad, head of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. The suit demands that the Judicial Conference and Administrative Office, accused of overstepping their judicial bounds, be placed under rightful presidential oversight, ensuring the judiciary sticks to judging, not politicking. AFL argues these agencies perform executive functions like cozying up to Democrat lawmakers pushing anti-conservative witch hunts against Justices Thomas and Alito. This is a major win for President Trump's agenda to drain the swamp and protect the separation of powers. So keep your eyes peeled on this one, if what Mila Joy is reporting is accurate. Please vote in our poll about whether we should arrest and detain Fauci on Alcatraz immediately. 100% say yes, arrest Fauci, but go vote. Place your vote in our poll. There's our awesome AI-generated, Grok-generated image for today's program. And that concludes the information that I set aside to share with you today. So let's talk about David. I'll see if I can polish up on anything President Trump and Carney went through today. I didn't see anything in my stack, but if I missed something, you know, and that's a good thing too. If you're on X, you can tag us at American_media_, and then we can go from there. We can tag you back. So, all right. Yeah, it's a good way to drop like news stories and things for us to click around and do some research on. And then we can bring it to the shows later in the day. So thank you, everybody. Follow us at the places at the bottom, scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And if anyone wants to throw something in the tip jar, we're on Patreon at The New American Media, Venmo at Brian Engelman, Cash App, Brian Engelman, PayPal at Fuzz Installment. To everybody out there in the TNAM universe, Kenneth, David, a human being, Bella, and everybody else, I appreciate you. I love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace.